What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Monday, November 24th, 2025, and I have an emergency alert to share with you guys. Right now it is 12:48 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Venezuela. So it looks like we are just hours away from this massive attack on Venezuela. U.S. nuclear forces are on high alert, and right now, this afternoon, we have 3 U.S. B-52 strategic bombers airborne. We have 2 of them flying south towards the Gulf, and their call signs are Pappy 12 and Pappy 11. You can see them here in southern Alabama, heading straight towards the Caribbean. We also have one in the Midwest heading northeast, which is pretty interesting. We also have a presidential doomsday plane that was moved from MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa to Wright-Patterson after flying close to the D.C. area. This is a doomsday plane for the President of the United States. He can command the entire U.S. military from this plane. We also have a nuke sniffer plane going up towards Alaska for some reason. These planes can detect radiation in the atmosphere. But major breaking news, we currently have 3 U.S. B-52 bombers airborne, 2 of them going down towards the Gulf and down to the Caribbean. And I wanted to show you guys the latest pizza index for the Pentagon. We have Pizzato Pizza, which is just 2 miles away from the Pentagon. It's showing a 250% spike in pizza orders right now. And last night we had a 400% spike in activity. Okay. And then also Domino's Pizza and Papa John's last night had 181% and 318% spikes. So it's safe to say that we are just hours away from this historic U.S. military operation against Venezuela. Now, last night, if you weren't watching my live stream, we had a large number of U.S. nuclear codes transmitted. And what was interesting about them is they kept being transmitted in groups of 3. So 3 codes at a time, back to back, and then there would be like a 30-minute pause, and then 3 more codes back to back. I've never heard them do that before, and I've been listening to them for several years, even since way before the Ukraine war started. So that was pretty interesting. And we also had this U.S. Air Force KC-46 Pegasus aerial refueler that was told to stand by for high priority traffic. So this must have been related to the Venezuela situation. It's not normal for U.S. Strategic Command to tell an aerial refueler to stand by for higher priority traffic. Okay, we also had this U.S. Nuclear War Command and Control plane doing loops over the Hudson Canyon off the coast of New Jersey. And when they do these loops like this, that means they have their trailing wire antenna dropped and they're sending out codes to the submarines, okay, our boomers, the nuclear armed subs. So what this means is that our nuclear forces are on high alert in case of any kind of escalation during and after these strikes. And I wanted to just share this audio clip of U.S. Strategic Command telling that aerial refueler that flew from California to Kansas to stand by for higher priority traffic. Listen.
November Alpha 93, traffic. I repeat, request traffic. Last caller, please
Okay, so you can hear him say, this is mainsail. Athena 9-3, this is mainsail. Stand by for higher priority traffic. I repeat, stand by for higher priority traffic. Very rare to hear this, guys. Let's listen to that again.
Please stand by for higher priority traffic. I say again, stand by for higher priority traffic.
So the situation is rapidly escalating. I will be going live this evening, probably around 8 p.m. Eastern time. And I'm going to be live all evening and all night covering this whole situation because I think it could go down as soon as this evening when the sun goes down. They're probably going to want to do this at night when it's dark. Okay, maybe those B-52s are going to launch some strikes, or maybe they're going to do another demonstration strike. I don't know. But I will be live 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight. And here we have an audio clip of those nuclear codes going back to back. Take a listen.
5, Bravo, 5, Yankee, Bravo, 7, stand by. 5, Bravo, 5,
So they just kept going and going all night long. We had multiple KC-46 Pegasus aerial refuelers go down to the Caribbean yesterday. We also had Dan Kane, the top U.S. general, fly down to Puerto Rico yesterday. He was initially supposed to go to Puerto Rico today, but he went yesterday, and he had already arrived yesterday afternoon. So, guys, this would be the equivalent of like the president visiting a foreign country, okay? You don't have the chief of staff of the U.S. military fly somewhere for no reason, okay? This is a very, very important person. The top U.S. general is now in Puerto Rico for the past 24 hours. We also had a B-52 nuclear bomber moved back to the U.S. from Spain, and it appears that they did this ahead of schedule. So these bombers were moved to Spain about a week or two ago. They were supposed to do a bunch of exercises with NATO forces, specifically in the Baltics and in Northern Europe. And they got called back. At least one of them got called back to the U.S., probably to participate in the strikes on Venezuela, okay? And Turkish Airlines has canceled all flights to Venezuela. Now, what's interesting is the dates that they have for this cancellation are from the 24th through the 28th, okay? So that's all the way through Friday. So I don't know if they got some intelligence from the U.S. The U.S. basically tipped off Turkey maybe and said, listen, we're probably going to strike this week, so you may want to tell your pilots not to fly over there. So according to Turkish Airlines, no flights going to Venezuela over the next 5 days. And we're also hearing reports that multiple international airliners have canceled flights to Venezuela. And we're also hearing some reports that the Venezuelan Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, apparently was evacuated from his house in Los Palos Grandes in Caracas. Apparently 12 vans and 6 motorcycles left his house in a convoy for an undisclosed location, and this was reported by locals on the ground that live near his house. Okay, so the Venezuelan vice president was evacuated yesterday, and remember my update from 2 days ago. If you didn't see it, basically, over the last week or so, local residents in Venezuela reported seeing convoys, motorcades, going to the international airport near Caracas, the Simón Bolivar International Airport. They were going there every single night and then leaving in the morning. Okay, so they're clearly evacuating VIPs in Venezuela. And Brazil is apparently very concerned about the U.S. military buildup near Venezuela, fearing a conflict, according to the Brazilian president, Lula, adding he intended to speak with Trump about it. Interesting. And we have another warning for pilots. This time in the Gulf of America, there was a NOTAM reserving airspace Tuesday from 0900 till noon Eastern time. Okay, and that could be for the bombers that need to be refueled after coming back from their bombing mission. So here's the actual NOTAM. You can see start date 11/25/25, 1400 hours UTC till 1700 hours UTC. And this is right near where they closed the airspace a couple of days ago when they flew those B-52s without their trackers on down to Venezuela. Okay, so it could go down tonight, it could go down tomorrow, but I will be covering the situation live starting tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and I will stay live as long as necessary. And then we had this interesting situation south of Puerto Rico last night. Apparently there were several calls to unidentified aircraft that were approaching U.S. Navy warships about 100 or 200 miles south of Puerto Rico. Here you can see the approximate location, but I'm going to play this clip for you. Take a listen. This is interesting.
Unidentified aircraft in position 1727 north, 6627 west, at altitude 18,400 feet, at speed 282 knots. You're approaching a coalition Navy warship operating in international waters. Request you establish communications, identify yourself, say squawk, and state your intentions. Over.
Wow, okay, so unidentified aircraft. Apparently they had to make the call to this unidentified aircraft 3 times. So this is just totally insane. And we're hearing from sources in the U.S. government that the table has been set for strikes on Venezuela within the next 24 hours. We're also hearing reports of military buildup at various government buildings in Venezuela, specifically Caracas. And Fox News reported yesterday that the U.S. military is on operational alert off the coast of Venezuela. So guys, get prepared. Things are about to get crazy. I don't know if they're going to do a limited strike and they're just going to try to scare Maduro to get him to voluntarily basically step down and leave the country. Or are they going to do a full-scale strike? I don't know. The amount of forces that we have in the region is absolutely staggering. We have about a dozen guided missile destroyers, which can each carry up to 100 Tomahawk missiles. So if you do the math, that's over 1,000 missiles that they can launch at Venezuela. Okay, so they wouldn't have all that firepower for no reason, plus Marines that have amphibious assault capabilities, meaning they can do beach landings, drones, fighter jets, attack helicopters, the largest aircraft carrier in the U.S. Navy. I mean, you don't do that if you're just going to do a demonstration strike, okay, like we did with Iran with the B-2s, okay? All you would need is to just fly B-2s and bomb 1 or 2 sites in Venezuela to scare the crap out of Maduro. This is for a full-scale campaign, guys. And European powers have submitted a revised version of Washington's Ukraine peace plan that rejects key limits on Ukraine's military and territorial claims, according to Reuters. The European draft, prepared by Britain, France, and Germany, raises the proposed cap on Ukraine's armed forces from 600,000 to 800,000 in peacetime and removes U.S. language implying some regions should be treated as de facto Russian. Instead, it says any territorial negotiations must start from the current line of contact. And Reuters is also reporting that Zelensky and Trump will finalize the peace plan for Ukraine during a personal meeting. And Ukraine and key European allies will tell the U.S. they'll only discuss territory with Russia once fighting stops along the current front lines. And Bloomberg reports that secret negotiations between the U.S. and Russia produced the peace plan that took Ukraine by surprise. According to sources familiar with the process, the outlet reconstructed the behind-the-scenes event. Special envoys Kirill Dmitriev and Steve Witkoff drafted the document during an October meeting in Miami, which was also attended by Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio learned of the plan only after it had already been completed, and Trump himself was informed at the last moment, but once briefed, he promptly supported it. Wow. And there were some big negotiations yesterday in Geneva, Switzerland. Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, and a bunch of high-level European diplomats were in Geneva to discuss the peace plan. And apparently the delegations there managed to agree on most of the provisions of the U.S. plan, and a significant portion of the controversial ones were adjusted. Among them, the issue of the size of the armed forces of Ukraine, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, and the format of prisoner exchanges. The points regarding territories and enshrining Ukraine's non-accession to NATO in the Constitution were agreed to be put aside. So then they're going to be coordinated at the level of presidents, okay? One of the most controversial points in the draft concerns the demand for the withdrawal of the Ukrainian army from the Donetsk region, and apparently a meeting between Zelensky and Trump may take place this week or next. And the British Royal Navy intercepted 2 Russian warships in the English Channel. The HMS Severn headed off the RFN Stoiky, a corvette, and the Yelnya tanker as they sailed west through the Dover Strait into the English Channel. And the Vilnius airport in Lithuania was shut down again after balloons entered Lithuania's airspace. And Japan will be deploying medium-range missiles to the Yonaguni Island, just 100 kilometers from Taiwan, as part of a broader buildup aimed at deterring China. So lately there's been a lot of tension between China and Japan, and we know the current Japanese Prime Minister is more of the anti-communist type, and she's kind of more of a hawk. Okay, and so this is huge breaking news. Okay, medium-range ballistic missiles being placed just 100 kilometers from Taiwan, effectively putting China within striking distance. Wow. And the U.S. Department of War posted this tweet on X earlier this afternoon threatening to court-martial Mark Kelly because of that video that he posted along with other Democrats telling U.S. military service members to disobey unlawful orders. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, guys. If you're in the military, you are not required to obey unlawful orders. You're actually required to disobey unlawful orders. And there have been numerous cases of this, like during the Vietnam War, when platoon leaders would be telling their troops to kill and rape civilians in Vietnam. The soldiers in that situation are not only allowed to disobey, but they're required to disobey, okay? Any kind of illegal orders from superiors are supposed to be disobeyed. That's clear in the military code, but they wrote here, the U.S. Department of War has received serious allegations of misconduct against Captain Mark Kelly, U.S. Navy retired, in accordance with the Uniform Code of Military Justice and other applicable regulations. A thorough review of these allegations has been initiated to determine further actions which may recall to active duty for court-martial proceedings or administrative measures. This matter will be handled in compliance with military law, ensuring due process and impartiality. Further official comments will be limited to preserve the integrity of the proceedings. The Department of War reminds all individuals that military retirees remain subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice for applicable offenses, and federal laws prohibit actions intended to interfere with the loyalty, morale, or good order and discipline of the armed forces. Okay, so maybe they're going to try to get him under some other code. Okay, but I want to remind you guys, Mark Kelly, whether you like his politics or not, he's an American hero. He was an astronaut. He stayed up in space, I think, for like 2 years. Okay, so this is just totally insane, and they're really stooping to a low level by doing this. It's not a good look for the Trump administration, that's for sure. And then we had a lot of reconnaissance in the Black Sea last night, unusual reconnaissance in the central Black Sea. We had a U.S. recon drone patrolling the middle of the Black Sea going east to west. And then we also had this unnamed recon plane also patrolling the central Black Sea. And then we also had a lot of intense reconnaissance in the Middle East last night. A U.S. recon drone flew through the Strait of Hormuz, the Gulf of Oman, and it was hanging out in the Persian Gulf along with a U.S. P-8 Poseidon sub-hunter. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I'll see you guys this evening, probably around 8 o'clock Eastern time, to cover the Venezuela situation. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP Shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP Shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video.